You made your films, your cinema, with cinema. I mean, with the what you know, what you have seen when you were young. I don't know. So maybe it's too simple and too generically, but I'd like to ask you, what is for you cinema? Because you, from I don't know, Jack Hill to Jean Renoir or any others, there is a big,
Yeah.
a big arc you know, of.
Well, my feeling is, there is no such thing as high cinema and low cinema. There's just cinema, and there's good cinema, and there's bad cinema, and it's just what you respond to. But if you do respond to an artist's work, or you do respond to a piece in particular, well then, at the end of the day, Jack Hill, Jean Renoir, there's no difference. No, actually, there's a gigantic difference between the two of them, and being able to articulate the difference and articulate the pleasures, is part of getting to understand cinema. Is part of appreciating it. But as far as just when it comes to good cinema, it's you can both. There's not a dichotomy there. You can expect them both, and I expect things from Jean Renoir that I don't expect from Jack Hill, and I expect things from Jack Hill that I don't expect from Jean Renoir.
And this for you makes like a relation with the pleasure more than the others? Kind of.
Well, cinema is my #1 art form, so I don't have to try, for that. But I've just always combated my whole life the concept of snobbery towards cinema. I believe you should be embracing of all types of cinema. You don't have to embrace every movie made. And actually knowing what you don't like is as important as knowing what you do. But I don't believe in the class system when it comes to movies, or even when it comes to directors. Now, truthfully, when it comes to some of the more exploitation movies that I like, there is I tend to have a forgiving nature about the things in it that might be cheesy, or the things in it that might not work, or whatever. But the same thing about some of the greatest directors ever made, whose a lot of their work has dated. I forgive that too, and it's not even a forgiveness. It's just I kind of even like it for that. That is what it is. But to me, it's more about the pleasures, adoring the pleasures, than criticizing or holding against it the deficiencies.
What I find out in your cinema is that more than pleasure, it's really something like a glorious joy. It's joyful to be cinema. In one sense, it seems to me that you are the only one recent, but the only one director, actually. In one sense, the only one director, living director, who automatically making movies center cinema. You touch cinema in one sense as a separate world, but the world, all the world. There's no high, no middle, no, because like Wittgenstein said about images. Every is a stone is much nearer to a flower or to a man than to the image, than to the thing that you see in the image. Not to the rose, but to another image, and that's so clear in your cinema. I think that you are, in one sense, speaking cinema, and it's very mysterious. What I ask you is if that is only linked with your biography, where you're living with cinema and then working with cinema. I can't think that is only that, because you, like in this movie, is really you're so free, jumping after the first part. In one sense, you can see that you left something, but this is incredible free, because all is in the same space. It doesn't matter that this is before or later. Well, that's.
I mean, you're right. I mean, the thing is, I mean, look, cinema is my life, and I've dedicated my life to it. Now, obviously, it is not the only thing. You know, I love music, I love literature, I love all kinds of things, but and then most of those things that I love find their way into my cinema, one degree or another. You know, I mean, in this, you know, as much as I love cinema, I tend to approach it, as far as my story structures are concerned, from a novelistic place, with the course of the chapters, and not necessarily telling even a linear story. But then it's like you know, but at the same time, whenever I've read books and they've done structures like that that I've liked, I've always thought about how cinematic it is if somebody were to do that. But you know, there is a you know, but I have dedicated my life to it. You know, one, watching movies, and now it's, you know, it's like even more of a study. I mean, it's strange because there's an aspect that I am a bit of a frustrated academic, because I actually quit school very, very young, and only to realize as time has gone on that I actually probably would have liked college. I would have liked it quite a bit. And there is this aspect that I'm in a constant, it's not just good enough to watch cinema, and it's not just good enough to talk to my friends about it. I like to just keep putting myself, I like to just keep learning about it, giving myself over to it. It's like I'm sitting for a self-made scholar on it, and I'm going for my professorship in world cinema, and I almost never want to graduate. In fact, the day I graduate is the day I die, and I'm not doing it for anything other than my own edification. Just like, for instance, you know, this is something I do all the time, is I'll write cinema pieces, or I'll write reviews. I'm not really in any hurry to publish them. Maybe at a certain point when I have enough, I might put a book out, or maybe I won't, who knows. But I do that to write my thoughts down so it's not just like, it's easy to just watch a movie and then you go away and then, you know, you forgot about the movie. But as I see something that makes me think about it, then I write it down, and then I never forget it. And I'm struggling trying to articulate myself about what it is I like and what it is I don't like. And I make notes, and I make notes just like a scholar would. And then I just put those files away to take them out later to look at them. To give another example of this scholarship is, you know, about 3 months ago, I had a book that I bought, I don't know, 5 years ago, but I've never read. And it was a book on the work of a female director, Dorothy Arzner. You know, who was one of the only female directors working in Hollywood in the 20s and 30s. And I've never really seen any of Dorothy Arzner's work. You know, so, but I, you know, was interested in that book, so I bought it. And, you know, I didn't read it for 5 years. I took it off the shelf, read it, got very fascinated with her, and then set out to start seeing some of the movies. And I saw about, you know, 4 or 5 of them. And then I started making notes on them, and making notes and making notes. And then I put it away. All right, and then I, you know, moved on, and it was just now it's something. Now I can talk about Dorothy Arzner, and now I have a sense about it, and I put pen to paper to actually really deal with some of my feelings about what I came across, and you know, and I learned things, and now boom, I have that. Now that's in my head, and it's in my canon, and then, you know, somebody else, and I'm always doing that. I'm always getting into a kick, either a kick on an actor, a kick on a director, a kick on a type of movie, and then I just kind of voraciously, you know, search it out and devour it, and then boom, then I'm done, and then I move on.
So from this point of view, it's possible to say that all your films are chapters of a big autobiography that you are writing.
Oh yeah, no, I would definitely say that. I would agree with that 100%. I mean, if my films have anything to offer, it's because they're personal. To me, to me, they're achingly personal. But I'm not really interested in, another personal filmmaker is Woody Allen, but I'm not really interested in doing semi-autobiographical movies, even though I like people who do that, what I loved about Sofia Coppola's movie Lost in Translation was how autobiographical it was. But I'm not really interested in doing it that up front. It's one of the reasons I love genre cinema, because I can work inside of a genre and I can reveal myself totally, yet also hide at the same time. It's not about you knowing my secrets, but I'm still revealing them to you. But I'm revealing them to you through genre and through these situations. Just as personal, just as aching, has everything to do with me, but you don't know quite what that means. Right? But I do, and people who know me well do. And that's the way I like to work. But if I don't reveal myself in the films, if I'm not telling the truth from where I'm coming from, and like I said, if it's not almost vaguely embarrassing, the things that I've revealed, then what am I doing?
About your writing in the movies, more than writing your movies, if you open, I open a book with a scenario, a play by you, I feel immediately surprised by this incredibly rich language, incredible. And I wonder if this too is something that you didn't study to write.
No.
It's something that another time it appears to me to be something like a product of cinema itself. You have this glorious feeling of when you feel you were young, or we were young, boy, hearing these voices bigger than life. Even it was images. The word were images, and that's what is most surprising in your cinema. It's not a cinema of a cinephile who make it, who are aptly, not scholarship. It's really beyond that. What's about this? When you realize this power of words as images, not words to be translated in images.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it's it's funny because look, I think the reason that I was lucky enough to find out, to discover my facility with dialogue, and like you said, it kind of goes beyond just having a facility with dialogue. It's like the reason for being. It is it is a true audio-visual experience. And I never studied writing. I never went to a writing class or anything. But what I did do is I did study acting. And most of the adjectives I use when it comes to what I do, I don't use writer's adjectives. I use acting adjectives. When I do write these characters, they are moment by moment. I get lost in the characters the way an actor can get lost in a character. And truthfully, if I'm working well, I'm doing very little. Me, Quentin, is doing very little. I get the characters, I know who the characters are, I am the characters, and I get them talking to each other. And then from that point on, they're doing it. And I'm like a reporter. I'm jotting it down. And they literally have the conversation themselves. And I think I know where they're going, and I think I know where I want them to go, but they go their own way, and they're always right. It's like I use an analogy that, I'm writing a piece, and I want I have this character here, and I want him to go to the bottle. That's the end result of the scene. All right, and I'm writing, but he doesn't go to the bottle. He goes to the camera. And then he hangs out in the camera for a while, and then he goes to my shoulder. And then he goes to my knee. And then maybe then, that's why the scenes are so long, maybe after hanging out on my knee for a while, then he goes to the bottle. And if he never goes to the bottle in the first place, the bottle was a bad idea. The bottle was a bullshit idea on me that I was imposing on the characters. And the characters, no, the bottle is bullshit. We're not going to the bottle. We're doing this instead. I know what's right. You don't. But I'm very, but that's really kind of how it works. I mean, every once in a while things can get carried away, and I can lose my way. I risk losing my way all the time. But there is a truth in that. I mean, just one thing that also highlights some of the other things you were saying. I just remember the first sequence I wrote between the character in this film, the Nazi Frederick Zoller, and Shoshana. And she's putting the letters on the marquee, and he comes up and asks about the Max Linder Festival, and they talk about the White Hell of Pittsburgh, and the blah, 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 and Linder versus Chaplin, and then the scene's over with. I didn't know I was necessarily going to write about that, all right? And when I finished the scene, I was like, I put the pen down and just, Jesus Christ, I go to make my World War II movie and just, I can't help it. It ends up becoming a love letter about cinema. A Nazi and a Jewish refugee are arguing about Linder versus Chaplin.
L'attrezzatura per girare che è in soffitta funziona ancora. So che la macchina da presa funziona, ma il magnetofono?
Funziona benissimo. Ho registrato un nuovo chitarrista che ho conosciuto la settimana scorsa. Perfetto. Perché ci serve l'attrezzatura per girare?
Perché Marcel, mio adorato, noi faremo un film riservato ai nazisti.
Using brought up something else, a segue?
Yes, no, I mean, in relation to what you just said, for example, the conversation about Max Linder, the young Nazi actor say to Shoshana, and that's, anyway, the way the things pass from him to her, even passing by something maybe like the cinema that is maybe not so important, no?
Yeah, but the marquee is beautiful. Yeah, it's that, you know, no, very much so. I mean, and there's also this aspect that, you know, the fact that, you know, she runs a cinema and he's a cinephile. Yeah. Just those facts alone, and I guess because it's me writing it, it suggests that they could fall in love, that they could be with each other. If it were any other time, if it were any other time in that century, they could have been together. But because this is the one time in that century, they can't be together. But that's why I do find it, you know, there's kind of almost there's a tragic love story there, the love story that can never be.
Thank you.
Well, let's do one more question. Okay, cool.
Okay. Sulla Leni Riefenstahl. Ah, Chabro. Okay.
We know there is a important relation in your film with Les Sangs des Autres of Claude Chabrol.
What from Claude Chabrol?
Others' Blood.
Others' Blood.
From Claude Chabrol.
Oh, Blood of Others. Yeah,
Blood of
Others. Yeah. Can I explain it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you think about Claude Chabrol?
Oh, well, you know, Claude Chabrol is not necessarily my favorite. All right. You know, I like some of his the husband wants to kill the wife wants to kill the husband movies, you know, that he did. I heard somebody make a joke about Claude Chabrol, that in a Claude Chabrol movie there'd be no divorce lawyers. You just murder your spouse, you know. But the thing is, you know, actually the Claude Chabrol movie that deals with, you know, the war that I think is exquisite is The Story of Women. I think it's a Canadian TV movie that they did. It's not a very good film, but
you saw the TV version of the.
Yeah, I saw it on video.
The
I saw it on video. No, I didn't see how. Yeah, it was only about 2 hours long, so I don't know. Maybe it was part of a miniseries cut down.
Movie
Yes,
version.
yes.
There is a TV version, more longer.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think what came out on video was like the shortened version. I don't think it would make much of a difference. It was kind of TV-ish, all right? But the thing about that movie, though, that was very interesting, was I learned a lot from it as far as how to deal with Paris, because on one hand, you know, they were actually filming Paris as is going along at that time, at some time in the 80s. And they were just doing a lot of filming in front of, you know, you could tell that they didn't, you know, stop big giant streets and change that much, but they were filming around a lot of landmarks. But you could tell they were definitely in Paris. And then there's this small little scene. It's maybe, you know, not even 20 seconds long. Jodie Foster meets Michael Octane in a cafe, and they talk for just 2 seconds and they leave. But the thing that struck me about that cafe, that bistro, was you just knew you were in Paris. It just felt like Paris. It felt right. It felt appropriate as far as the age was concerned. And I didn't need to be convinced. I just knew they were in Paris. And it just had that thing. And so anyway, I knew that most of my movie would be shot in Germany, and most of it would be shot on sound stages. And also, I wanted to get away. I didn't want the film to I think everyone who makes a period movie goes, oh, I don't want it to feel like a period movie. Well, one of the ways to not make it feel like a period movie is not to shut down streets and have old-timey cars driving back and forth and tons of extras dressed in period clothing. That's why I tend to put people in small little places. So you're not always dealing with the period. You're actually just dealing with the people. Anyway, having said all that, since I knew I was going to be creating Paris as opposed to being in Paris, I had a thought as a filmmaker that, okay, you know what? I can get away with that if I go to Paris once. If I go to Paris for one scene and you absolutely, positively know in your bones they're in Paris. And if you do that once, then you don't really have to do it the entire time. If you just I'm very strong about this. You don't have to convince an audience about something for the entire length of the movie. You convince them towards the beginning, and if you do a good job, if you convince them, if you show them in the beginning, you sell them in the beginning, and you're convincing throughout the rest of it, you're fine. And so that inspired me to go and find a bistro, find a cafe that just said Paris. It said Paris from another time period. You know, whether the place was built in the 20s, or built in the 30s, or built in the 40s, it's just, boom, that. So I have this bistro scene, and I knew that was the scene I wanted to go to Paris to shoot. And I looked at location footage, photos, after location photos. No, it's not right. No, that's not right. Oh, that's kind of right. But nothing was really that special. Nothing, and it was actually expensive to go to Paris. So it was like, I found some things I could do, but nothing that would be worth spending the money and going all the way there to do. Until finally, I saw pictures of this one place. I go, well, that's it. That's right. That's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of place that would be worth going for a weekend in Paris. That would be worth spending the money that we're going to have to do to go to Paris. I mean, just look at this place, just looking at photos. Just look at this place. You can't put the camera in any direction without getting a good shot. It's just terrific. You know, and I didn't have some bullshit outside the window that I've got to now create a false wall to cover. You know, what's the point of going to Paris if you're going to build a facade outside of a window because you got a neon pharmacy sign? You know, so everything about it was perfect. So we arranged with the production designer to go down to Paris and look at this place, and I actually had showed him Blood of Others to give him an idea for that one little scene of what I was looking for. So anyway, we show up in Paris, production designer is waiting for me, car pulls up, I walk in, Quentin, guess what? What? This is the bistro from Blood of Others.
The same.
It's the exact same place. And we didn't ask for that. It wasn't until he got there that they go, oh, yes, we've shot a couple of things here before. Oh, like what? And he mentioned Blood of Others. And I go, well, no wonder I loved it. No wonder it was perfect. And it was just this happy, wonderful accident. And to me, it works very much in the movie. When you're in that place, you know you're in Paris.
Cinema finds itself.
Yeah.
What do you think are two completely different cinema obsessed directors like Jean-Pierre Melville, parle en français, et Shinya Tsukamoto. I heard that you were going to produce his third Tetsuo. Actually, I've seen he's not produced by you. What's happened? But what do you think of him?
Okay, so Jean-Pierre Melville and Shinwa Tsukamoto?
Shinya Tsukamoto, yeah, the Tetsuo director.
It's Tetsuo director. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty different.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Why is that? Not necessarily.
Yeah. I think they're both terrific. I haven't seen Shinwa in a few years, but I actually met him in '92. We kept in contact for quite a few years after that. He's a great guy, and talk about a director who really goes his own way. I am still blown away by Tetsuo and Tetsuo 2. But that's actually interesting that you bring them up, because there is I have noticed actually, especially compared to European cinephiles and even American cinephiles, which is another breed of cinephile, that the Japanese cinephile is a slightly different breed, But I think part of that also becomes how we find the movies that we find. I mean, for instance, the Eli Roth in my movie, he's a director, he's a wonderful cinephile. But you have to imagine though that these European films that these giallos and stuff that me and Eli like in the Fernando de Leo movies, you have to understand how we saw them. All right, now I'm actually I could actually see a couple of them at the theaters when I was a little boy, because they were still having theatrical runs. All right, but most of us, I found them through videos and dubbed versions of this, and now it's quite nice with all the DVDs. But then you look at somebody who is older, like a Joe Dante, and Joe Dante could have seen them at the actual movie theaters, all right, when they played, and then Jean-Pierre Melville's experiences are going to be completely different from mine about either what he responds to and also what he rejects. Martin Scorsese is one of the huge cinephiles, but I'm sure he has love for maybe Antonio Margheriti. Space film or this film from the 60s, but he's not going to be really loving the contemporary movies. He's not going to really be loving maybe the Fernando de Leo movies of the 70s, because he's too busy doing his own, and that might be kid stuff to him by the time that he's doing movies. But then also you have something surprising as Hideo Nakata, I believe is the guy who directed The Ring. He's been working on a book on Joseph Lucy, for the past few years. And there was, I go, really, that's so exciting that the director of The Ring has been working on a film critic book on Joseph Lucy. And then when I met him I met him once in Japan, and the first thing he said, "Do you like Joseph Lucy?" And actually, the first time I met him, it wasn't the first thing we said. But when I met Wong Kar-wai for the first time, there was a bunch of people around us, and we sat down to dinner, and we were talking, and when finally we had a couple of words on our own that wasn't about his movie, he turned to me and he said, "What do you think of John Cassavetes' Gloria?" I go, "Oh, I really like it." And he goes, "Well, the girl in Chungking Express, Bridget Lin, is based on Gloria." I go, "Oh, well, now that you say that, yes, I see that." But, I have to say, of all the directors out there, it is the cinephile. It is the cinephile directors that I'm the proudest to be amongst, and they're the ones that I really truly feel are my colleagues.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. You guys are awesome.